Hi, welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking Business and Family. My name is Jeremy Kellett. I'm Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. On today's episode, I am sitting down with the Vice President of OOIDA. His name is Lewie Pugh. We've actually sat down and visited before. I've had him on the podcast before and talking about several things. But me and him today, we sat down and we talk about couple things, but one is driver turnover versus driver shortage. That's an interesting conversation we have. We talk about too many regulations in the trucking industry and how that affects guys getting out of the trucking industry and how it affects new ones coming in. We also talk about, truck drivers that are underpaid and overworked. We touch on that a little bit. We touch on technology a little bit and what the future's like from OOIDA's perspective and what Lewie thinks that the future looks like for the trucking industry. If you don't know what OOIDA is, it is Owner Operators Independent Driver Association. They're 150,000 plus members strong. They're advocates for protecting drivers' rights, and they do a fantastic job at doing it. They're always working with the state and the federal governments on trying to protect drivers' rights. So, great organization, great people. I encourage you to check them out. Go to their website and sign up, become a member if you're not. But listen to this episode. Some great information from the man at Lewie at OOIDA, and I hope you enjoy it.
A used semi-truck is a great way to kick off your career as an owner-operator on a budget, and buying from a reputable dealer like Aero Truck Sales ensures you're getting a reliable truck that fits your needs. They carry trucks from all the major manufacturers in the trucking industry and perform a thorough inspection of every truck on their lot to ensure safety and quality and give you confidence that you're getting a reliable truck that will last you for years at a price that you can afford. Being a longtime partner with Oakley Trucking and the Oakley Podcast, we trust them to provide our owner-operators with a truck that fits their needs and matches our qualifications. So whether you're a first-time owner-operator or just looking for a new-to-you rig, be sure to give Keith Wilson and Trey Visor a call at 573-216-6047 and let them know you heard it here on the Oakley Podcast.
I was reading an article this morning that she sent me that kind of was talking about what you wanted to talk about when it came to driver shortage, and the article was, it had different views on it from should we invest, government money into retention on keeping truck drivers at the job, or should we, spend the money up front to get more truck drivers training and, with the local and the state departments of trying to get them to, get more drivers in, more training, better facilities, all this stuff. And, she goes on through this article and talks about turnover and, just a few different things and got me to thinking too about driver shortage, which I've never been asked about it much other than here in the office we talk about it. But I'm so caught up into my own Oakley trucking world that I don't see a whole lot of the outside like you do, Lewie. So, tell me and our listeners, what is the outside view of this truck driver shortage that they talk about?
Well, from our point of view and my point of view and most of truck drivers' point of view, I would say there is no driver shortage at all. There's a driver turnover problem. There's a huge problem. I'm sure with you guys, from what I know about your company and how you operate and from friends and people that I've known that's worked there over the years, you probably don't have much of a turnover problem because you treat your people right. And like you told me, you got people waiting to come there to work. We were talking. So that's a good thing. And private fleets and your LTL companies, a lot of them, that's what they have, I talked to a guy the other day. He's got a job. He said the only way you get a job here is if somebody dies. And because it was a good pay, they treated their people well. And so that's a good thing. The problem is, though, for some of these bigger over-the-road, especially just freight, van hauling type jobs, it's in and out so much. They have over 90% turnover rate a lot of times in these companies. And they're going out the back door as fast as they're coming in the front door, it seems like. And that's really a broken model. I remember being on a meeting in Ohio with one of these carriers one time that that have this issue, and they were trying to get money like you were talking about from the state of Ohio, and to fund training of truckers. And I was like, well, I don't, we were pushing back against that. And I'm from Ohio originally too, so I was pushing back with my elected officials, and we were trying to come to common ground. And they're like, well, you don't understand what it's like for us, because we hire these people and we have an expense and a burden of hiring them, but then they only stay for like a year or so, get some experience and leave. And I said, well, have you ever thought maybe if you paid them a little better, they might stick around? And she's like, well, that's just it. They leave for better paying jobs. I said, well, there's your answer.
Right. I mean, how hard is that to figure out?
Exactly. And I mean, I understand people can't start at the top, and we have to, you have to pay accordingly to experience, but that's the problem. And as and I know, anybody's been in this business, this isn't a Monday through Friday 40-hour week job. This is a 70, 80-hour week job. You're away from home, some guys for weeks on end. If you're lucky, some of these guys are lucky to be home for 34 hours to get their restart and right back at it again. You can't expect people to work like that and give away how many hours. I don't imagine you have this much trouble at Oakley, but a lot of these places, warehouses and stuff, giving away 20, 30 hours a week, waiting to load or unload and getting no pay for that. Maybe getting pulled over by highway patrol, spend an hour getting inspected, and you get no pay for that. The only way you make money is making miles. And, with the parking shortage and all these other problems in our industry, you can't expect people to come here and do this job for $50,000 or $60,000 a year and expect them to stick around when it's 70 hours a week, because that's what they always leave out. It's like, oh, it starts at $50,000 or $60,000. Well, yeah, that sounds real good till you start figuring the hours and all the stuff you have to put up with to be in trucking, because it's a hard job.
That's right. And that's a really good point, because you can't really compare it. And I think the people that are saying that, I mean, they don't know what's involved. And like you said, into a week of a guy's, say a guy gets home on the weekends, if he's lucky, what all he goes through and how many hours he puts in for that pay. And a lot of that unpaid time goes by. And I think I've never understood, of course, only being here at Oakley, Lewie, I've never understood why people don't want to pay to keep a good one. It's almost like, and I just have to go on what I hear from from truck drivers that come over here, because, it's almost like there's a lot of trucking companies that are anti-truck driver. I mean, it's like, I don't get it. I'm like, there's what makes your pay. I mean, I would think those would be the first people you take care of. But I hear them, the guys will tell me stories. Oh, you can't, this is weird. I've never been able to go into the office and just talk to my dispatcher, walk up to his desk. I've never been able to do that. I've always had to wait, in a waiting area or behind a glass. I never could go talk to him like that. And it's almost like, well, I don't understand that. My point of view, I'm like, I don't get that. Why don't they, are more accessible, better communication? And I could just go on. But I totally agree with what you're saying. Of it's pretty obviously obvious if you pay them more, it sure helps them stick around.
Well, yeah, and it's just pay them better, treat them better. Drivers shouldn't be treated like an expendable commodity. I don't know. It blows my mind that since deregulation, we've just flourished with this model of turnover is more profitable than retention, and I don't understand it. Now, I wouldn't argue the fact with some folks that probably finding experienced drivers is a shortage problem, a little bit in experienced drivers, because so many people come in and within a year they're gone. But there's over 400,000 new CDLs issued every single solitary year.
Really?
Where are all these people going? And they get out, or a lot of them just get out completely. Some take construction jobs or stuff like that where they can get paid better, have a better living. But, it's a shame, because just unfortunately, and it's just the way it is in this industry, we don't value, so many people don't value the drivers. They don't value their time. They're expendable commodity, like I said. And it's just so frustrating. I just think that, for one, we need more training. There's lots of things we can invest in and make the highway safer. And that's part of the problem with this whole shortage myth, in my opinion. Too much regulation, too much rules, too much stuff's out there now trying to get passed and pushed down on truck drivers because we're sharing this false narrative. And there's been plenty of research, plenty of studies out there to show, even by Bureau of Labor, that there isn't a driver shortage, but yet we constantly hear it in Washington, we constantly hear it on Capitol Hill, we constantly hear it at DOT, and we're constantly, as an association of OOIDA, pushing back against regulations and laws and rules that are being put upon us due to this false narrative in trucking, which doesn't help anybody.
So you think a lot of those regulations and stuff keeps people from staying, keeps truck drivers from staying in the industry and keeps them from even wanting to get in it?
I think it takes good drivers who are experienced, probably the best way to say it, and lets them get out. And probably new people get in and think about it. It's like all this electronic stuff that we hear about, the AEBs and all these great latest and greatest things. ELDs were supposed to make the highways so much better and so much safer. And this has never come to fruition, because what we say here at OOIDA, and I believe it myself, and I'm sure you probably do too, the safest thing on the highway, if you want to improve highway safety, is a well-trained driver. And that's expensive. That's a very, very expensive thing. But if we're really serious about safety, that's the thing. Because my opinion, instead of passing more stringent rules and regulations on training drivers, instead we're doing ABs, maybe some underride guards, ELDs, speed limiters possibly. All these little things, we want to put them on trucks and put them on drivers instead of training the driver. And to me, that's backwards. There isn't a trucker out there, in my opinion, that would not embrace something if it really helped. I think forward-facing cameras is sort of an example of that. I mean, it doesn't do much but record. But I know when those first came out, everybody was kind of against them, myself included. And, because truckers, we don't want to monitor, we don't want to be monitored. Yeah. But you've kind of learned over the time that these can really save your bacon. The forward-facing, not the drive, but the forward-facing. And they've become, a lot of people in industries really are starting to embrace these things and stuff. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, I know if I was still trucking, I would have one on my truck. Because, again, it can save your bacon real quick.
Yeah, it has us in a lot of instances. It's been a fantastic tool. And our owner-operators have accepted that graciously. From all I can tell, we don't ever have any complaints about. I mean, everybody's a little, in the beginning worried about them. I think like everybody was, but now it's saved so many. It's saved drivers' jobs. It's saved a lot of lawsuits by having those forward-facing cameras. It's been well worth the investment, and everybody seems to appreciate that a whole lot. I just, to me, I wished. There's so many rules with a truck driver, so many laws that they have to go by. It's overwhelming to them, and just like you said, some of the older ones just get tired of it and want to get out. And and I just wonder overall how many people get out. You said 400,000 come in, or CDLs are issued every year. You just wonder how many get out in a year's time, whether it's retirement, whether it's just getting out altogether and taking another job. I've never thought about that and see those numbers, but I mean, you can't expect a guy to go through. I mean, it's hard to follow all the rules. I mean, there's so many of them, but it really, because in my mind, the education definitely needs to be on the truck driver, but it also needs to be on the four-wheelers around him. To me, there's not enough education on people driving a regular vehicle down the interstate, down the road, to know. They need more education on the truck driver side, and I just don't think there's enough training for people that don't drive a truck. They need to know some of those things, that you can't pull in front of him. He's got to have so long a distance to stop. I mean, it's just, they have all these rules they got to go by. To me, there needs to be some training on that end too, Louie. What do you think?
I don't disagree. I mean, we bring that up. I bring that up a lot at state when I'm meeting with states and state DOTs. And in fact, here in Missouri, we brought it up not too long ago. At our board meeting, I had a lady from MoDOT here, and we were talking about it. And that's the one thing we talk about, training, people driving cars and kids. And she was talking about how the Missouri budget is getting so tight that they may have to end doing like driver training in school, and you're going to have to get your kids trained privately and stuff. And to me, that's just crazy, because maybe that's where we need to be sticking some of this money, and instead of worrying about putting money in. We spend millions, if not billions, on enforcement, which I think we need enforcement, but we've seen that all these inspections and all this stuff over the last 10 or 12 years, we've dumped all this money, and there's so many more inspections and so much more stuff out here on truckers, but the numbers keep going the wrong direction. So maybe it's time money isn't the problem, apparently. So maybe it's time to divert some of that money into more training, whether for drivers or four-wheeler drivers, both. And I know that gets a little, because DOT, of course, doesn't really have any oversight over car drivers, but states and lawmakers, maybe instead of funding drivers training schools for truckers that we don't really need to do, maybe that's what they should be doing with those funds, is funding for driver training for kids in high school, like you said. Learn more about driving around. Learn defensive driving. I don't even think they teach that anymore.
Yeah. I don't know what they teach anymore, but I can tell you it's not taken real well. I witness it every morning on the interstate out here on I-40, and there's a lot of people that have been through no training whatsoever.
Well, Interstate 70 isn't any better, trust me.
Oakley Trucking is a 100% owner-operator company. We specialize in hopper bottom, end dump, and pneumatic trailers. We provide the trailer free of charge, and you provide the truck. We have a large customer base that reaches the whole United States as well as parts of Canada. Our owner-operators live anywhere from Texas to North Carolina to Pennsylvania to Wisconsin and everywhere in between, and we get them home weekends. We take it seriously when you join Oakley Trucking because we need you to be successful. Oakley offers great benefits and competitive mileage pay, so you know that when your wheels are turning, you're generating money no matter if you're loaded or empty. We understand that you want to make a good living and that you make our living. We only take on independent contractors, and to be honest with you, we are very particular on who we lease on. You must have a good driving record, good work history, and clean, dependable truck. So if you're interested in Oakley Trucking or just want some more information, you can go to oakleytrucking.com, listen to our weekly podcast, The Oakley Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. What do you think the next 10 years are looking like when it comes to truck drivers? And I know we say we have enough, feel like there's enough. From my perspective, Oakley Trucking, yes, we're always looking for good owner-operators, but there doesn't seem to be a shortage out of there. It's a cycle that we go through to where sometimes, you don't need as many as you do now, and then other times freight explodes and you're trying to hire more, and then you think, well, there's not enough out there, when really there is. It's just, the freight, I think, dictates a lot of it, to where when everybody's busy and you got a lot of freight in the in the world, in the industry, in the USA here, then it keeps everybody busy. So you don't have, then you got people looking for drivers and they think there's a shortage. Well, then when the freight slows down, well, then you got, plenty of truck drivers, not enough freight. I think maybe a lot of times they don't take that into effect. What do you think?
Oh, I think it happens every time. I think we're going through that right now. These were unprecedented times during COVID, and there's nothing even compared, but freight was moving, there were shortages of everything. Trucking was great. Guys were making, I talked to some of my friends that hauled the stuff I was hauling before I came in the office. I'm thinking, man, I wish I still had a truck. It's crazy the money they were getting. Yeah. But, I think everybody hired, everybody expanded, everybody bought more trucks, hired more drivers, and now we're in this big slump. The hangover effect, I guess you could say, of the big COVID boom. And now, we there's not enough freight. Spot markets are in the tank. I think from what I see with our guys with contract rates are doing well, or okay, maybe is a better word. People on the spot market with the brokers are not doing very good at all, especially and then you factor in this broker fraud that we're seeing and stuff like that that's going really, really rampant right now. That's a very bad area. But yeah, nobody's very busy because it happens every time in trucking. I mean, you've been around here long enough. Every time we have a boom, we buy more trucks, we get more equipment, we flood the market with equipment, and then the next thing you know, there's not enough to haul, and everybody's starving to death.
Yep. That's I mean, that's been going on forever. That's the way it is.
Exactly.
Up and down, up and down. That's the world of trucking. That's the way it is.
But as far as the future, I mean, there's plenty of people coming into our business. I think what holds is going to be what kind of comes out of Washington. There's some bills out there as far as overtime pay and stuff like that could really address drivers' lifestyles and incomes, which is something that is number one to drivers year after year after year. We see, I think, this parking issue that we're dealing with, if we can get some of that stuff across the finish line, that'll make lives better for trucking and make this, again, a job that more people are looking for and wanting to do. Right now, trucking is just not that attractive. And understandably, I mean, I always tell people that ask me to get into it, if you can get through the first 2 years and not have no accidents and behave yourself, you can pretty much go anywhere. You can go to a private fleet or an LTL or somebody who pays really good and they'll take care of you, or buy your own truck if you have the mind to, in the business sense. I always say the business sense, because just because you can drive good doesn't mean you can own a truck good. It's two different things. And I'm not trying to be rude, but that's just the cold truth of the matter. But no matter what, if you can do that, but it's just, I understand why people don't get that 2 years or so in, because it's just, everything's stacked against them and it's not fun. And, I did the math one day on the $50,000, $60,000 a year job in 70 hours. That's like $15 or something an hour. You can make that at McDonald's across the street. So, until we as an industry, or some of us in industry, I think, have a really changing mindset and have more of the Oakley mindset of we value a driver, we value good people, and understand that the good, safe drivers is what pays our bills and makes us successful as a company. It's not going to change. We're just going to continue this churning effect of bringing new people in and getting other people out. I mean, and it's sad, but I hope that I hope in the next few years we change that attitude, and I hope we start thinking, about training more than the next best technology thing. So much of these rules and regulations are driven by shortage in technology. And again, technology is a great thing. We all love it, but it's got to work. And so much of this stuff, it just doesn't work or doesn't work correctly. And there's lots of questions. And when you start asking questions, they just sort of want to shut you down or tell you you'll figure it out. It's kind of like California and CARB. I like being on them calls, and I start asking all these questions, and all I get told is, well, by the time this is law, they'll have it out there. Well, maybe we should have it out there before we make a law.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, you guys at OOIDA have always been, really good to us here at Oakley for sure, and of course to all the drivers out there and helping them, supporting them, and that's the big thing. And to me, I mean, it starts at the top, Lewie, even with the company, like here. I mean, it starts with Bruce Oakley, Dennis Oakley, Benny Weatherford, Justin Oakley. They know the truck driver makes their living, and that when that is at the top level, it filters on down to everybody else. That this is how we're going to take care of these truck drivers, because that's what make our living, and respecting them. And you can just see that. To me, it's simple. Why a company, I said this earlier, wouldn't take care of them. Get the right ones in there, not the wrong ones. There's a lot of bad truck drivers out there, just like there's a lot of bad trucking companies out there. Get the one that fits your program, and then take care of him. Treat them right, pay them. Man, the pay solves a lot of problems. If you can pay them the money to keep them there, because most of them are looking to stay there. They're not wanting to leave. they're looking to stay at that company. You just got to take care of them and treat them right. And bad companies have put it's made it rough for good companies because I have to tell everybody that comes in orientation, Louis, wipe your slate clean. I don't care what's happened to you in the past. We are not that company. Don't compare us to that. Don't bring that bad stuff over here to where you think it's going to happen to you, because it's not. I want you to wipe the slate clean and start fresh at Oakley, so we can tell you and be honest with you up front. We're not trying to hide something. And I think if a lot of companies would just, try to take care of their drivers, pay them good. That's a key, I think, is pay, because just like you said, all these hours they put in and time away from your house. Let's see what I got to pay, somebody working in this office to stay gone for a week at a time, taking a shower in a truck stop, can't find a parking place, park on the side of the road, hoping they don't get a ticket, making sure everything's right, and they're following all these rules. And you get home on a Friday night or a Saturday morning, and then you got to leave out Sunday night or Monday morning. Let's see what I got to pay you. It's gonna be quite a bit. You're gonna have to pay me, Louis, to work for you to do that. I mean, honestly, because I'm gone away. So I know I get to ranting and raving here, but it just means a lot to me that, as I can tell, you're passionate about it, and it's really not that complicated. And you explain that, and I know you're trying to explain it to a lot of politicians. It's not that complicated, if we would just do it right. So I appreciate what you're doing.
No, it's crazy. Like I said, driver's time isn't valued. I mean, the last time I testified this spring on Capitol Hill in T&I, that's what I said. Can you imagine coming to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, sitting around till 10:30, 12, something like that? Then finally you get to go to work, and then now you start working. Now you start getting paid, and then say you work for 3 or 4 hours, and then you got to stop. But you got to sit there for another 2 or 3 hours, not getting paid again, before you can go back home. Because that's what truckers go through, unfortunately. I mean, especially your big fleet company drivers, that's what they go through. And I mean, that's why OOIDA, I'm sure you've heard, we're pushing this GOT Trucking Act. It's to remove the overtime exemption for employee drivers, because we think drivers should be valued. There's no other skilled blue-collar job out there that you don't get paid overtime. So why are truckers exempt? And I said this earlier, but ATRI does a study every single year of drivers, companies, and owner-operator concerns. Every single solitary year, the number one thing is drivers, is their pay. We know pay hasn't kept up with trucking since the 70s. And you're right. It does make it hard for a good company who wants to pay, because you have these other companies over here that aren't, so they can do it cheaper and bid things cheaper, or they do the lease purchase thing where the driver subsidizing the movement of their freight, in my opinion, is always really doing. And you have to compete with that kind of stuff, and it's not fair. We always hear people wanting a fair level playing field. Well, that's far from fair, and unfortunately, it's good of the companies that can and do the right thing, but it's a drag on our entire industry. And I know that's what I try to tell people. Rising tide lifts all boats. If the bad companies were forced to pay their drivers the right way, that would make their bottom line have to come up, and which in turn is going to move your bottom line up right with it. Because
that's right. Like I
said, rising tide raises all boats.
That's right. There you go. What, real quick before I let you go, what's on the top of your list right now? What are you in the middle of?
We got parking we're talking about, this overtime bill exemption, a big thing, the restroom bill, that's important, that's out there for where these shippers and receivers have to allow drivers to use the restroom. Those are some of the big things that we're going to be talking about. Well,
can you even believe you're saying that we're having to have a bill for somebody, a shipper or receiver, to let a truck driver use the bathroom?
No, I can't. In fact, I've said that multiple times testifying at the state and federal levels. I never thought I said in the nation's capital, where all these great things have been decided, and I'm talking about getting permission for somebody to use the bathroom. It's a crazy world we live in nowadays, buddy. It's a crazy world. But
my gosh.
But yeah, and then of course the other big thing we're working on is trying to get some legislation to stop the speed limiter bill that's out there, or I should say the speed limiter rulemaking that FMCSA is trying to come out with. So,
well, I hope you have some success at all that for sure. I know you fight hard for the truck drivers, and it's very much appreciated on our end here at Oakley for sure. Hey, if somebody wants to join OOIDA, what's the best way of doing it, and what's your benefits there?
Easiest and quickest way is to go to OOIDA.com to our website. You can join right there, real easy online, OOIDA.com. I also like to plug fightingfortruckers.com if you want more information on some of the rules, regulations, or you want to reach out to your lawmakers, which is very, very important. I can never stress how important it is that truckers need to have good relationships with their lawmakers and be reaching out and telling them how these things affect. You can go to fightingfortruckers.com, find out who your lawmaker is, find out about the bills and more information I've been talking about today, and you can message your lawmakers and stuff right there. And finally, if you're not a technical person, you can call in to 816-229-5791. And, even me, if you're a member or not a member, you heard something on here you like, you heard something here you want to disagree about, and you want to talk about it, call me up. I'm always willing to chat one way or another.
All right, man. Lewie, I appreciate your input today and coming on the Oakley Podcast. Man, you've always been a great guest, and I know this has been, 3 or 4 times now, and it goes a long way. We've got a good audience, a good group of owner-operators here that I think take you to heart and appreciate all the work you do for truck drivers in general.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I love being on this show, and I know from my 20-plus years experience, your guys were always had good-looking equipment, and they were always very professional, and I think you got a lot to be proud of there and your owner-operators, and I appreciate them, and I appreciate all truck drivers out there.
All right, Lewie, appreciate you joining me. Thank you a lot, man. Hey,
thank you, sir.
Thanks, everybody, for joining the Oakley Podcast. I appreciate everything y'all do out there and checking us out every week. We put out some new episodes for you. We're looking forward to some more coming up in the future. Going to be some good ones. Stay tuned. Watch every episode you can of the Oakley Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.